Travis Bell, hello. Welcome to How to Become Your Own Superhero. I'm your host, Laban Ditchburn. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Laban, how are you, mate? Stoked to be on.
Well, we're really appreciative to have you on today. And honestly, I'm blessed. I got food in my belly, clothes on my back, roof over my head, the love of a beautiful woman. So for that, I'm eternally grateful. And certainly
I'll second that. Right, yeah, here.
And I'm wearing a suit inside, so it makes me feel like I'm doing a bit of the corporate thing from time to time, just for a few minutes.
No, as long as that makes you feel better about the suit, that's fine. After a while, that'll fade.
Oh, mate, I'm sure. I had the pleasure of meeting Trav at the Professional Speakers Association conference earlier this year, which was probably the last conference of its type anywhere in the world, right before everything went into lockdown.
Just before all this broke, yeah.
And there was many things that intrigued me about you, Trav, but I'd really love for you to give an introduction and explain to people who the hell you are, really, if you're happy to do so.
Yeah, well, I guess in that world, in the speaking world, I'm known as the bucket list guy. So I've been running around as the bucket list guy for about pretty much the last 10 years. Prior to that, I was in the personal fitness training industry, did that for 20 years, founded and franchised a chain of personal training studios, had a bunch of personal trainers working under my umbrella. And then sort of was helping people, with their health and fitness, and now it's about life. And someone actually called me the bucket list guy. So essentially I'm a speaker, I'm a coach now, but I'm absolutely obsessed with helping people find more meaning, more purpose, and more fulfillment. And that's really what it's all about. And I guess the unique point of what I do, I use the filter of bucket list to really help people get clear on their why. And that's what really lights me up. I absolutely love it. I've been in the same lane for 10 years. So stoked that someone actually called me the bucket list guy 10 years ago, and now I feel that I really on purpose. I'm really helping people via the stage, via coaching, via all these other mediums, to actually get that message out there. And it really has helped a lot of people over the years too. And now I've been lucky enough to branch out, to leverage, to scale now through our bucket list coaches that we've got around the world. We've got these certified bucket list coaches now in 18 countries around the world. So it's not just about me anymore. It's about the legacy that I can leave, and through our coaches help even more people around the world, which is what it's all about.
It's awesome. So is it like a Jim's mowing for bucket list?
Oh, interesting example. No, it originally was kind of like a license agreement, and now it's a certification. That's just a legal term that it gives people the rights to basically teach our stuff, teach our intellectual property around the world, in their corner of the world, to communities in their corner of the world. And really, we use the bucket list, I guess, theme, but underneath it, it's pretty much all about positive psychology, helping people find more meaning, purpose, and, like I said, fulfillment.
Yeah.
And that we know that that's a massive problem, because the rate of depression, as you and I have discussed, mate, the rate of depression, the rate of anxiety, this loneliness epidemic, which has even got worse with this COVID-19 corona cyclone that we're all in right now. The mental health of the planet is it was already really bad. And as we've discussed, and now it's even worse. So we feel that we've had to lean into our mission and vision even more during all this, and really turn it up to help even more people, however we can.
Yeah, you're right. And I think some of the stats that have been coming out just recently, there's like an anxiety rating that they monitor in Australia. And I believe that during the bushfires it was at a certain level, and now it's 7
Mm.
times that level of the bushfires. And I think
That's crazy.
which from my own experience, it was a pretty full on time, and then pow, this happened. The
Mm. Mm.
the mental health one's really interesting, Trev. That fulfillment that you talk about. When was it for you that you realized that you weren't being fulfilled? When was that moment?
Well, yeah, I had my own breakdown before breakthrough moment through a bout of depression. And when I look at what I went through compared to some of the cases that I hear of, mine was, nothing compared to what I've heard since. But your own perception is your own reality, right? And so I was in a pretty dark place for a while. And instead of going on heavy antidepressant medication, which I knew a lot of other people were, I chose to just invest a heap of money, get right into personal development, life coaching, all these other technology to try and self-heal as good as I can, as hard as that was. So I didn't want the band-aid effect. I wanted to really get to the the core of the problem. So I found myself, mate, every other weekend investing money, walking on fire, hugging it out and high-fiving it with strangers, breaking boards, bending bars, breaking arrows, crying on each other's shoulders, and just learning all this, personal development stuff, and which is in effect coaching, which is in effect therapeutic, cathartic, counseling to a certain extent, but using it on myself to self-heal in a way. And then it was actually in one of those seminars that a friend of mine at the time said, "Oh, why don't you teach this stuff?" And that helped me really compartmentalize it. And one of the best things about being a coach or being a speaker is not that we're up there doing, using it as therapy on ourselves. It's just really good to be vulnerable up there. It's really good to be your authentic self up there, be your own superhero, but without the cape, without the mask, and really be your true self. Someone I saw a quote recently: speaking is the fastest path to realize, to self-actualize. And that's pretty cool. And it's so, if you are being yourself up there, that you can't hide. They either like you or love you or hate you, but it's a really, that platform really exposes people. And for me, that's helped me get over myself and get over what I was going through. And even though we've got that voice of self-doubt always in the back of our mind, we've always got it. Who am I? Imposter syndrome, as a lot of people are talking about these days. That's our reptilian brain always telling us, no, be safe, don't stray from the herd, be like everyone else, be accepted, be loved by the herd. And that's what, that's how you stay safe. There's a part of our brain that actually says stay safe. And that's what it doesn't like us. It doesn't like us stepping into fear. And a coach said to me once, what do you do? I said, what do you do about all this self-doubt? And he said, well, go out and help as many people as you possibly can. Just go out and help. And it'll be the waves of their, recognition of them having their ahas and their breakthroughs. It's the help that you give. It's the testimonials. It's the praise that you get back. Before you know it, if you go out and help enough people, it'll be so noisy that it'll drown out that inner voice of doubt, and no truer word has been spoken. So go out, help people. And that's really what I did, is go out, help more people, even though I had the fear, who am I to do this? Who am I? But before you know it, you go and help enough people, and you really start, you can't help but believe what they're saying. Not from an ego point of view, but just from an internal confidence point of view.
Yeah, I get exactly where you're coming from. And a great sales trainer, you'd know him very well, Zig Ziglar, always said, you can get whatever you want in this life, as long as you help enough other people get what they want, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I've really gravitated a lot towards a lot of Zig Ziglar's work. And for anyone that's watching, if you haven't had a chance to read or listen to any of his tapes, he's now passed away. He passed away a few years ago. He's an American guy, incredibly influential, smart, brilliant genius of a man with such a great demeanor. And in our mutual networks, Trav, we know people that were mentored by him in this speaking community. And that has really helped in my own journey. And I'm still only relatively new into this process, but that ability to own everything that's happened to me, and then to become more comfortable, which is a learned behavior, and allowed me to open up and be vulnerable. I can't tell you how many times now people are becoming really comfortable. People I barely even know, telling me their deepest, darkest. You know.
Yeah, the more that you're vulnerable, the more that you step into your uncomfortableness, and the more you expose yourself, more of yourself to the world, metaphorically speaking, the more that they'll be open, the more that the receiver or the audiences will be open. If you don't deal with your stuff, or you haven't dealt with your stuff, or at least gone there and not vulnerable, people, your audience, people that you're trying to coach will hide in your shadows, guaranteed. So if you talk about depression, you can guarantee that people who have gone through or are going through depression will show themselves, and will be more open to being helped, obviously, through the stuff that the knowledge that you're talking about. But if you're not open, if you try and hide stuff, I can guarantee that the people around you will do exactly the same. Your audiences, from a speaker's point of view, your audiences are a direct mirror of where you're at.
Amen. I couldn't agree more. And I just want to backtrack a little bit. The bucket list has been made popular in terms of the phrase because of the movie, which I don't know. Did that come out before or after the whole official naming of your branding?
Oh, no. Someone called me that afterwards. And I when I talk about the movie, I get stuck into the movie. I reckon it's shit because, I've based my whole career on it. Great. Yeah. Because it was about two blokes that get given a cancer diagnosis, and then they write a bucket list.
Yeah.
So that's what we should not do. We should, get busy on our list, reprioritize while we can, separate our to-do list from our bucket list, get clear on what these meaningful end steps actually are, and go out after them. Choose happiness, go out after them before we get given a use by date.
Awesome. And I gotta ask, what's some of the cool shit you've done in your life on this bucket list? Run us through it.
Is this X, R, G, or M plus?
This is not going to be suitable for children. Let's go R16. Let's go R16.
R16, shit.
Like Robocop. No, it was R18.
We've got a few people in the house here.
Some of the more fulfilling stuff.
Look, one of the biggest stunts, I guess, that I did, it kind of helped me, get on the map in terms of this whole bucket list thing, is I grew up as a swimmer. And so swimming was never a problem with me. And I'd done one marathon, but then I videoed myself actually entering a full Ironman. So I entered a full Ironman, not even owning a bike. And so I could swim. Yep, that wouldn't be a problem. This is a 3.8K swim, a 180K bike ride, and then followed by a marathon. Apparently you're all meant to do it all in one day. Yeah. So I literally filmed myself like I am doing this with you. And I'm like, bang, paid the $990 or whatever, and went, and it was about a year out, and went, oh shit, okay, now I better train. So it was the first triathlon I'd ever been in my life. It was a full Ironman.
Good
so I
did
no warm up. So I entered it, but as part of training, I did an Olympic distance triathlon. I did a half marathon, half Ironman, and then did a full Ironman. So I've done 3 triathlons in my life, and 2 of them were for training. So the theory was, if the why is strong enough, the how will work itself out. So, and I see, before I was the bucket list guy, I'd had a list to do. I had a written down list to do before I die since I was 18. A lot of people didn't know this. And when I put on my first seminar, I actually told everyone about this list, and no one knew anything about it. The second thing I put on it was to complete an Ironman. And sometimes you write this stuff down, you don't know. It's all about the why, not the how. The how will work itself out. The reticular activating system, the people that we're hanging around, the kind of conversations that you had, the stuff that you read, all kind of manifest to make the how come to fruition. So I just wrote it down years and years ago. And I went, shit, the opportunity came up. So I just entered and went, oh my God, what have I just done? And I blogged basically my journey towards finishing the Ironman. And there was massive breakdown before breakthrough moments. I overtrained, I got injured, I had to have all sorts of different injections in the lead up to it, cortisone injections and that sort of thing. I got a coach, and it was all the journey about getting a coach, outsourcing to a coach, getting help when you thought you knew everything yourself. And I didn't. But then I did that and did it really well, and nearly qualified for the World Championships in Hawaii. So I went nuts. I lost 6.5 kilograms in 9.5 hours. And I can't hardly remember the last half of the marathon. I just went into this weird place. I don't know where I was, into the Hurt Locker.
I'm familiar with that place.
Yeah, finished straight into a space blanket on the IV. And I was, but I was stoked, and I literally missed out on a spot to Hawaii by 6 minutes, and I had no idea. But I just buried myself. And so that was a huge example. And then I basically sold my triathlon bike like a few months after.
Get the fuck
I was
out.
done. It was ticked. So I was just a bloke. It was an experiment. I was just a bloke trying to tick something off his bucket list. I wasn't trying to be a triathlete. Look, you got that one. You've got also, I went to, done a lot of stuff with my dad, and you may or may not have heard me talk about this, but he's been a big inspiration for me to get busy on my bucket list. See, I'm adopted, and my dad and I weren't the best of mates growing up, and as a result, we didn't really get along. And he's a fitter and turner by trade. Always in the same job since he was like 16 till retirement, which is a rarity these days. Is this your biological
father or your adopted
This is my environmental father.
Okay.
Not my biological father, but so him and I, my biological father, it's a whole other story. But my environmental dad, who is still alive, who lives only a couple of Ks away from where I am right now here in Ocean Grove. I wrote on my list to do before I died, I wanted to do a hike with Dad, and I did the hike, and it was a real bonding experience. And I thought I lost him there a couple of times. It was down in southwest Tasmania in the great South Coast Track Walk, and that's where you get dropped in by seaplane, and they drop you in, and the website says carry 8 to 15 days worth of food, and they basically drop you off. So I was with Dad, 2 of his best mates, and me, and so dropped us off, packs full, plane pissed off, and we did it over 9 days. Wow. And it's a great experience, freaking hard. And at the end of it, I said, Dad, this was on my bucket list to do this walk with you. And I didn't get a massive response from him at the time. I thought it was going to be like a movie kind of moment, father and son hugging it out. But no, Dad's not a man of emotion. I'm still looking
fitter and turner.
Yeah,
stoic in his approach.
Get off me, mate. So, but I said, look, this was on my bucket list, and then he did turn around and go, oh, I'm glad you put it on there because this has been fucking special. And still no massive hug. But then about 6 months later, I was talking to him, and he said, oh, what else is on this bucket list thing of yours? And I said, oh, funnily enough, I'm working on something at the moment. I'll let you know. And my mate, who's a New Zealander, he's a real mountaineer. Like when I say mountaineer, then there's real mountaineer. And I think everyone in New Zealand thinks they're like Sir Edmund Hillary in some degree. Like they're all outdoors people. And anyway, my mate Grant, who I used to ride with, He's got no toes. He's got no toes on his left foot. He lost them on some peak in outback Pakistan. And anyway, I swear all these all these full-on mountaineers sit around their little Bunsen burner at night time and compare limbs. He said to me, Trav, I'm going to Mount Everest. I'm like, well, I'm a surfer, mate. Just take it easy. I'm not a big mountain climbing guy. And he's like, no, you can come through. You can go through Tibet. We go in the northern base camp of Mount Everest, and you can peel off there, or you can come to advanced base camp, peel off there, or go to Camp 1. And so he goes, I'm going to Camp 1. I'm not going all the way to the top, but we're going with a full-on expedition team of about 12 summiters. And I'm like, oh, fuck, how much is that going to cost? And he's like, it was expensive at the time, 15 grand. Mate, I don't have 15 grand to do that. He goes, mate, you'll find a way. I know how bad you want to go. And now, because I've been telling him about it ever since we knew each other, because he's a mountaineer. And I'm like, yeah, the number one thing that I put on my bucket list was to go to base camp on Everest. And so he goes, Trav, and this is the message for everyone through this, trust yourself. You'll find a way. When the why is strong enough, the how will work itself out. It's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of resourcefulness. And so I found a way. I actually put a deposit down on an apartment. That the builder went bankrupt, I think, and that deposit money for that apartment, I just used that and went, oh well, that's not getting built anymore. I'm going to spend it on Everest. Dad, yep. You know that bucket list thing? Yep. We're going to Mount Everest, mate. And we're going through we're going through Tibet, and we're going to end up, going down through Beijing, through Tibet, through Lhasa, and then we're going to get in a bus and we're going to and all he could say was, Trav, where the fuck's Tibet? I was like, look, it's part of China. It's part of China, mate. Look, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Really? That's extraordinary.
But then he said something really poignant to me at the time. He goes, Trav, you realise I've never been out of Australia before. I said, exactly, mate. That's why we're going. Since then, I've taken him to base camp in Tibet. We did Kokoda. I took another 15 bucket listers with me, and we finished the day before Anzac Day and did the dawn service in Port Moresby, 3,000 New Zealand and Australian graves. Goosebumps, and that we finished Kokoda and then went to the Bamana War Cemetery and did the Anzac Day dawn service there. It was absolutely phenomenal. I've taken him to Mount Kilimanjaro through Africa and a game drive in Africa. I've taken him to Machu Picchu. We did the Inca Trail, a bit of glamping through that one, not as rough, bit of glamping.
Yeah.
And we finished Machu Picchu, came through Sungate on the morning of my 40th birthday. And I took another 10 bucket listers with me and Dad. So he's come along with me on all these adventures. And the last one we did was Mount Kilimanjaro. I went to the top. He didn't eat and drink water without throwing up for about 2 or 3 days prior.
Wow. And
I remember being in the tent with him, and this is at high camp, and he turned it over to me. He was full on grey, and he's gone, all right, Trav, enough with the fucking hills. All right, enough with the hills. This one's nearly killed me. He's in his 70s now. This is only a few years ago. And so to be able to share these bucket list experiences with and help other people fulfill theirs, even though that he never had a bucket list, it's what you do with other people. It's not just all about you, which a lot of people think it's quite a selfish act or a selfish pursuit. But it's really how you can influence other people around you and inspire other people through your own actions. So I think it's a journey, and also self-leadership. So, and that's that's a really long answer to your question, mate. But
great answer.
That's great what answer. And then you got Burning Man Festival. I went there with my best mate, and we went to the Burning Man Festival, and that's a whole other podcast in itself. We did an ayahuasca ceremony with another few mates. We did the ayahuasca ceremony in unicorn onesies too. So just to turn it up a little bit.
Is there any other onesie?
There is not any other
I don't
type.
think there is.
No.
That stuff with
Those
your
things
dad.
can get pretty warm after a while, especially when you go and do it in outback Queensland. So
I would love to explore this ayahuasca. Maybe we'll save it for another recording. But your story with your dad's really inspiring, and I think the closest thing that I can even start to compare that is I'm from New Zealand originally. I moved over here in 2001. My father's from Melbourne. He moved back after his second divorce in 2000. And I was working for Census back in 2003. And I was working there for about 5 years. And I won an incentive trip to Tahiti on the 6-star Paul Gauguin. This beautiful, had a 2 Michelin starred restaurant on there. And I was single at the time. And I had all these crazy ideas about who I might be able to coerce into coming on this cruise with me as like a reciprocal kind of agreement. And I was like, my father, who I love dearly, still alive, by the grace of God. I was like, he's so benevolent. He's so generous and so giving. I was like, Dad, you want to come to Tahiti with me? And it was just the most extraordinary week ever. I think this is in my partying days. We were both banned from drinking alcohol on the plane ride over because we were singing, "We're going to take it to a spirit in the sky," like when everyone's trying to sleep. We went on the cruise, and
you're that guy.
I was that. We were those guys, right? And the whole week that we're on the boat, and they'd stop off at Papeete and Moorea and Bora Bora, and we'd snorkel and do stuff throughout the day. And I became known as Rick's son by the end of this trip. My father's a retired radio announcer now, and I remember one particular incident where we got to have one meal or one dinner at the 2 Michelin starred restaurant, and that was 2 Michelin stars more than I'd ever had access to. And I remember Dad was smashing cocktails all day in this floating bar. And so by the time we got to dinner, and he'll kill me for telling this story, but we had this exquisite meal, like still one of the greatest things I've ever put in my mouth, right? And then we nailed this meal, and then Dad promptly went back to his room, and it all came straight back up because of all the cocktails. So I never actually got to digest all that amazing stuff. So it's just something that struck me. And
I mean, it's those sort of stories and memories and experiences what it's all about, eh?
Well, we still talk about it in vivid detail to this day. He said to me at the end of the trip, he said, "Son, this has been the greatest week of my life." And I, whenever he's long gone or whatever, I will still cherish that ability to spend that time with him. He hadn't really traveled anywhere apart from Singapore, I think, at that point as well. So I feel where you're coming with that stuff, Trevor, really, and I love that.
Yeah, and my old man sacrificed a lot. He worked his guts out to make do, and it was, in a way, it's my way of paying him back. Now the great thing about it is we're best mates, and and I've told that story from stage, and the ripple effect and I tell it in a different kind of way, but the ripple effect of that, I've had people leave my seminars, in the breaks and go and ring their dads, or dads ring their sons. Like there is countless times where that's actually happened, where it's actually caused people to go and create catch-ups with their parents or their sons or daughters, and it's had a huge effect. And I'm about to release a book called the My Bucket List Blueprint, and one of the first stories in there is actually from a mate of mine, Dr. Troy Hendrickson, over in Perth, originally from the US. He heard me tell this story. He literally called his dad that night, and I didn't know he was doing this. And he called his dad and called his brother and said, "Look, they used to do a lot of fishing growing up." And Troy called his brother, called his dad, and said, look, Dad, you're getting on. We've got to have a catch up. We've got to have it. We haven't seen each other. I moved over to Australia. I've been busy. We're all busy. Let's put it all together. So Troy organised it all. They went up to Alaska. They went hunting and fishing up there. And Troy, I nearly tear up when I hear it, when I think of this as well. Troy sent me the photos of him, his brother, and his dad all together up there in Alaska fishing. And when they were coming out of where they were camping on the seaplane, he looked over at his dad, and his dad just had tears in his eyes. And he's, late 60s, 70s. And he just turned to Troy and said, "This is the best week of my life."
So good.
Yeah. And and Troy just lost his shit. And I said, "Mate, can you just write that story down, or at least get it transcribed or something like that?" And he said, "Mate, you've changed my life," and I said, "Can I use it in the book?" And he said, "Oh, my pleasure."
So good. So good, Trav. When's the book coming out?
Oh, it's not. I'll just say soon. Say soon, but it's coming. Yeah, no, there's lots of cool stories in there, and a lot of these stories are from people who've been impacted by this bucket list message, and we've got there's heaps of them too. So it's really cool. Some of my own stories, and some of the people around the world that have been impacted by the message. Some of their stories are detailed in there too.
Well, it's such a great concept, and it's got such a great aura. It's got such a great connotation to it. I think I never even really saw the bucket list in its entirety, the movie, but I've been familiar with the concept for a while. And I think for anyone out there that's probably overwhelmed and going, sure, it's okay for you guys, this is what you do and whatever else. Like, where's a great place to start? Like,
well, look, the best way to start is to actually, right now, right in the middle of the corona cyclone, people are taking, the whole world is taking a big, deep breath in. I think it's a great opportunity to recalibrate. I think it's a great time to recalibrate on what lights you up, what brings you happiness, what gives you meaning, fulfillment, purpose. And a lot of people are doing that, and you've probably seen that as well.
Yeah.
And people are starting to reevaluate, benchmark what they've been doing, and what am I going to do going forward? A lot of people are doing that. So rather than live by default, how about choosing to live by design, by your own design? And we do that. I say bucket list is a tangible life plan where our career plan or our business plan should fit into our life plan, not be the other way around. Let's take some time out of our lives to work on our lives, create these tangible end steps in terms of bucket list. And it's not what you think. It's not just about travel. Travel is one of the 12 categories to, and how to write a personally meaningful and holistic bucket list. If you want to know more about that, probably like suss my TED Talk out, have a look at that. And on there, I go through and unpack my bucket list blueprint. It's a 12-letter acronym for how to write, a personal and holistic list.
Yeah.
And that'll
we'll link the YouTube link in the video below.
That'll get people at least thinking, and it's designed to ask. It poses questions to get people thinking, to extract and then articulate their list, and it's got to be stop. We're all comparing. Mine's bigger than yours. We live in this comparative society. Just do the things that you truly want to do, and a lot of it does not take a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of money. Travel does, but travel's unfortunately one of the 12 categories. That takes a lot of time, a lot of money. There's a lot of things that you can do on your bucket list that don't necessarily need a lot, but what it does need is focus. And what it does, the whole bucket list concept, is allow people to decrease noise and increase the focus on the things that truly bring them fulfillment.
Yeah.
So start writing by actually writing it and getting it out of your head, separating it from your to-do list from your bucket, separating your to-do list from your bucket list. You're actually got a 42% more likelihood of actually manifesting. So you might as well just write some stuff down on a piece of paper. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. And baby steps, like you've been into your fitness for like a very long time, your whole life. Have you always
Whole
been in good
life.
shape?
Yeah, I've always been a jock. So
So,
not
you know,
not
like
real flash at school, but always good at PE.
we've all got our talents, Trev. The as in our discussions offline, I am a relatively new distance runner and have completed some ultra marathons. And
Yep.
I started out really, really small. I remember my first run was like 800 meters and I was absolutely cooked. And
Yeah.
if you are, what you're witnessing today is the result of many years of hard work and discipline. And
Mm,
you've got to start the journey of a 10,000 miles starts with a single step, as they say.
mm,
And
totally.
being able to break things down into little bite-sized chunks is super duper important, particularly with that
Yeah.
goal setting as well, right? Have you got
Yeah.
any examples of some really basic goal setting with regards to what your bucket list
Yeah. I
that
have.
you're going to share?
Yeah. Look, bucket list is what we call an achievement goal. It's not a habit goal. There's two different types of goals. There's habit is your routines, rituals, the things that you build into your day to day. I'm going to drink 2 liters of water or 3 liters of water per day. That's a habit goal. That's something that you can tick off every day as just, that's just a habit. That's just build it into life. There's no end point to that, by the way. So therefore, very different to an achievement goal. You might do a bunch of habit goals en route to building to an achievement goal. I've got to run a marathon. Okay, well, I've got to drink water. I've got to eat this. I've got to train like this every single day. So they're the habit goals that build into the achievement goal. So when a person says, I want to, I want to write a bucket list, a bucket list is a whole host of tangible end steps where you can get, here's the props, where you can get to the end and go, yep, I ticked it off, tick it before you kick it. So that's our thing that we use for our coaches around the world and their clients. You've got to be able to, say, yep, I've ticked that off my list. So they're the difference in the goal setting, but it's not about goal setting. It's about goal achieving. But I also want people to be present to the process. The thing that, look, every year I write, and I'm a bit of a freak when it comes to this goal setting and productivity hacking, life hacking to a certain extent. Have read a lot of stuff over the years and created some of my own tested and measured, experimented things in my own life, as you do, mate. And, statistically proven that you only should set about 7 to 10 goals per year, 2 to 3 per quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. More than that, because people don't achieve stuff because they put just too much on their to-do list or too much, they write down too many goals.
Yeah.
Try and batch other goals under that umbrella goal and just have less of them. And that's a big one, but set them up per quarter. That's a really important thing. That's that baby step,
Yeah.
So what are you going to, what are the bucket list items, or what are the achievement goals, or what are the habit goals that you're going to instill and go after, in this 90 days, and then reset it for the next 90 days, so forth and so forth. And that succession of 90-day might be leading up to like a big one to achieve at the end of the year. But it's, I would set, and a season can change your life, it really can. So I'd be setting 90-day and I'd be setting yearly.
Yeah.
I mean, anything more than that is just don't bother. Especially right now, 2 and 3 year goal. Look, why bother? Just go with a year and then work backwards from there. And even with this whole bucket list concept as well, mate, people might think, oh, it's just about ticking a whole bunch of cool stuff off. Well, no, really, if you observe the journey and look at how you've got to reverse engineer a lot of aspects of your life and different areas of your life in order to make that stuff come to fruition.
Yeah.
It's really the growth of the person on that journey towards that destination. But more importantly, it's about the person that exists on the other side of that bucket list tick. And that's the person that you and I and them don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's called our potential. And what really lights me up, what I'm obsessed about and always have been from personal training days, is, people realizing that they are way more than what they tell themselves on a day-to-day basis. Going back to personal training days, we'd have people coming in going, oh, I can't do one push-up. I already know they can do 10. They just haven't been shown the right technique.
Yeah.
They haven't been spotted in the right way. They haven't been given the encouragement, and they haven't been, tweaked. And so you show them the right technique, you do all that stuff, and it blows their mind, and it full on scrambles their brain. And it's like, well, what else can I do? That's a very, but their story that they've told themselves, they've led themselves to believe, is that I can't do a push-up, I can't run. So it's a really challenge of their identity of why they can't do something. So they've gone out, grabbed a heap of grabbed a heap of examples in their environment, put meaning over the top of it, created a story around why they can or cannot do something. And that just shits me, because I know, and that when that is unpacked, people can unbelieve that story and unbelieve the BS related to that story. And BS, I mean belief system around that story.
Yeah.
Funny how that has got BS as an initial. But when people see their own potential and experience their own potential, puts a smile on their face, and that's what it's all about. So I want people to play with the edges, push the envelope. People are dying at 40 and being buried at 80. People are dying at 40 and being buried at 80. People have a midlife crisis, and they buy into it about what they can and cannot do, normally what they cannot do.
Yeah.
And I call bullshit on all of that, because I've got too many examples around me, especially over the last 10 years, of where people have unbelieved something about themselves and gone after it and just changed their life, full on changed a lot of areas of their life. And that stems from, business through to relationships, through to health, finance, all the aspects of life. So I'm excited and deeply passionate about helping other people see their own potential, because I'm like I was in personal training day. I can already see that people can do 10 push-ups.
Yeah.
But people are walking around going, I'm only a one push-up person. I'm only a one push-up person. It's fucking bullshit. You can do 10 push-ups. You can do whatever you want. Oh, again, but you have to be shown. You have to be given. I've got people who, after when I talk, they come back and say, thank you for giving me permission to dream again. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, you don't need permission. You don't need to be given a use-by date. You don't need to be given such a jolt as far as a cancer diagnosis for you to reprioritize. So let's go after it. Let this be everyone's who's listening and watching their virtual cancer diagnosis.
I really love that, Trav. And as you know, with my own transformational journey, one of the things that I've virtually almost eliminated 100% is the negative self-talk and the limiting beliefs. And so going back to the ultra marathons, like 100K ultra marathon, which if you talk to your average punter, 99 times out of 100, they will say, I could never do that. And I use this really fucking dramatic example, which, please take with a pinch of salt. But I say, do you have any children? And they might say, I've got a son and a daughter. And I say, if I had a gun and pointed it to your son's head and said, I'm going to shoot your child if you do not complete 100 kilometers, do you think you could do it? And 100 out of 100 are like, of course. And I'm like, what's the difference? What is the difference? There is no difference. It's just that recalibration, the reframing. And when people start telling themselves that they can do things and change their language from I can't do this to I am doing this. And that great example of writing or booking your Ironman and just reverse engineering that motherfucker so that you start working out in your own brain. All right, I've got 12 months to learn how to swim and ride a fucking bike. And it was the same with the ultra marathon, same with the, the quitting of all the drinking and the gambling and the drugs, all of these things. And, the fulfillment that you mentioned earlier has just gone through the roof as a result.
That actually reminds me. I said to a room of about 250 people, this is kind of the end, we had a lot of rapport going on. I call it mafia motivation. And that is the example of holding a kid or your white fluffy dog hostage until you do that thing or you commit. And I actually said it to a group, and I just don't know where I went. I just said it, and I said, if I came in here with a gun and just threaten you all, would you get off, or threaten your kid? And I just said it like that. I didn't even think it through. And I'm like, fuck, what are you doing? About halfway through, and it didn't go well. It did not go well. Oh, you don't know my situation. You shouldn't talk about my kids.
Oh,
so I haven't really used. So probably don't use that, mate. Or just a word of warning.
Not on the public stage. Just as one-on-one stuff more.
Yeah. You don't. And so, but it is right. I reckon you could give the world's shortest motivation class or motivation talk. If you want to be a great motivational speaker out there, guys, go get a piece. walk in on stage, just threaten everyone. Say, go run that marathon, or you're all going to get it.
Yeah.
You probably won't be invited back. You'll probably get some bad PR around you, but hey, you'll get the job done.
What do they say?
I'm saying this facetiously, guys, so just having fun.
Thankfully, we've got very tight gun laws in this country of Australia.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And everyone's in lockdown at the moment. Trav,
True.
I think there's some really amazing things that you've been able to achieve, and what you've done with your life, and my experience in our meetings and catching up, and have been just really eye-opening, and you've been really, really helpful. You're part of this Professional Speakers Association. You're a CSP. You speak for a living. You're doing this coaching. You're doing this bucket list.
Well, I did.
Well, you're technically talking now, but like, what's next? What's next for Travis Bell?
Oh, mate, we've got bucket list coaches. I've licensed out some of our intellectual property. Now we've got bucket list coaches around the world in 18 countries. So I play, if I'm not speaking, I'm playing founder CEO of that company. It's a training company. So we've got these certified bucket list coaches teaching my stuff, and want to run deeper with that, offer more programs, which is largely focused on mental health, positive psychology, go deeper into that thought leadership, and create more products, create more services that they can offer, get more coaches, obviously, to spread the message. So that thing has become part of my bucket list, is create a legacy and to change the conversation. Really get on the world map of being able to help people live more fulfilled lives, and literally have that be a tool for change. And I've done it in my own little way through this bucket list. And it's not about me, it's more about the content. And now we've got the opportunity for other people to join in on that legacy, join in on that mission and vision, to go out and help people live more on purpose and live with more fulfilled lives. That's a big part of my day at the moment, especially when I'm not speaking on international stages, no events, no flights. So pouring into that. So we're opening in more countries, translating into different languages, and building a team around that. But that's not the only thing. I'm firing up my podcast again. I'm releasing more books.
What's the podcast called, Trev?
The Bucket List Life.
Where can we find that?
It's on iTunes. It's on my website. We're probably, by the time this comes out, you could probably see it on my website better, because we're changing the platform.
Cool.
Interviewed some cool people, really cool people, and it's just growing. I love just connecting with interesting people like yourself, and getting stories and sharing those stories.
Shucks.
But yeah, no, essentially it's more of, I do, private coaching and stuff like that. But really where I find flow is still in the speaking. So I can't wait for the borders to open up again, and to help people from the stage. And But yeah, that's kind of where next. And the good thing about speaking is the fact that it does enable me to travel around the world now with my family and do the things on my bucket list. And that's why I got into speaking in the first place, to be able to rock up into a country, do a talk or two, and spend the rest of the time bucket listing.
Yeah, so good, Trav. And one of the great things that I learned recently is that I'm currently doing this masterclass with Vin Yang regarding using the voice as an instrument, and he talks about this great example of, for anyone that's interested in improving their ability to speak, that there's a friend of his who's a brilliant guitarist, a phenomenal guitarist. And whenever he's in a public environment and he's got his guitar there and people are throwing requests at him and he's just creating tunes from scratch, just like that, he's the most confident guy in the world. But when he's in a networking event, involved with something else totally unrelated outside his comfort zone, he goes into the shell. And then talks about this wonderful ability to carry your instrument wherever you go, your voice, so that you can then be confident. And that's something you've been doing for a long time. And I felt that was a really powerful message. It certainly resonated with me, and the importance of being able to communicate the great stories that we all have inside of us in the way that you're able to articulate your bucket list journey. If we can articulate that in the way that it's in our head and it's received in the same way, the 10 out of 10, it's a much more impactful and a powerful story. And I think that's one of the great things I love about some of the great stuff you've done, Trav.
Yeah, man. I love the art form of speaking as well. In my heart, I love what. Sure, I've got a lot of speakers, professional speakers, have got their signature stories and their signature talks. But what really excites me is about the evolution of the art form, is how to actually get better, and not thinking that you've got it all covered just because you're getting a standing ovation. Like how can I get better? How can I tell stories better? How can I communicate the message? So instead of getting half of the room going, aha, that was the light bulb moment, how do I get the whole room to get that aha moment? How do I have more laughs? How do I have more tears? How do I get into the hearts of people? How do I get them to take more action? And how can I entertain more? How can I position myself better on the world stage? This is all part of the evolution of a speaker as well. And that's the sort of stuff that excites me, especially, after doing a lot of talks over the years. That's the sort of stuff that gets me out of bed and gets me thinking and gets the creative juices going for me anyway.
Yeah. I'd really like to wrap this up because I'm really respectful of your time, Trav, and it's been a really wonderful session so far. We last time we met in person, just before everything went into lockdown, we shared a barbecue and we discussed the idea of biohacking and how interesting a concept that is. Is there anything that you're biohacking with at the moment or self-experimenting with that you'd care to share with anyone?
Yeah, I think you know that one, mate. It's and you had a hand in introducing it. No, I'm full on vegan now. It's great, and no, I'm only joking. No, being experimenting with the carnivore diet, and I reckon I'm running at about, I reckon I'm about 90% on full carnivore diet. Let's be honest, probably 80%.
Yeah.
And still letting a few things slip through, but I'm experimenting with that. And thanks for introducing us to that. And we've been eating a lot of meat since. But the benefits now, after a few weeks of doing it, the benefits are starting to show through, and they are skin clearing up, sleep, recovery from workouts. What else? A little bit of, I'm starting to see some abs, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Or should I say a couple more abs? No, just some abs. The 6-pack's going to 8-pack. Not. As far and
Mental health? Any
leveling of moods,
Yeah.
Tracy. Leveling of moods, fantastic. It's having a really interesting effect. Lots to get used to. It's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
And but it feels more natural than a lot of other eating habits, and I know, I guess, having been in the personal training industry for so long, I kind of get the theory behind it and get the theory around ketosis effects of it as well, burning fat as your main energy source versus the sugars and carbohydrates. For me, I'm not spiking on sugar as much anymore, not wanting to go for that next fix.
Yeah.
Still having cravings. One of the things that I want to get rid of is sugar cravings. Still have sugar in the coffee.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that. Connecting with some pretty awesome communities and getting some tips and hints but who would have thought? And eating less as a result too.
Well, look, it was a very loaded question, and thanks for sharing, Trav. What I'd love to do is, I think, with the amount of stories and I think that need to be shared, we'll revisit this podcast and we'll maybe do an update. My carnivore situation, it'll be 2 years in August, and I am now, as of the April 23rd, 2020, have been like less than 5 grams of carbs per day for the last 3 days, because I want to try and get lean enough to be able to increase my per kilometer times. I'm training to try and do some pretty outrageous marathon pace, and just as an experiment, just as part of all this other greater stuff, to see how far I can push my body. So I need to get lighter. So we'll stay updated with this, Trav, because this is really interesting, and it's good that the wife's involved as well. So how can we find you on social media? Where are you located?
One is probably I frequent most on Instagram these days, which is bucketlistguy.travbell, bucketlistguy.travbell, or LinkedIn and Facebook. That's Trav Bell the Bucket List Guy, and go to thebucketlistguy.com for my main website as well. So if you put in The Bucket List Guy, you'll find me.
I think it comes straight up from memory. But today has been an absolute pleasure. You're guest number 2 on the Become Your Own Superhero podcast, and I think there's so many things that will resonate with people, and certainly with myself, that will allow them to become, a better version of themselves, and to try and head towards that fulfillment that we all seek and crave, whether we know it or not. It's been an absolute pleasure, Trav. We're very blessed to have you.
No worries at all.
Have a blessed day.
Cheers, mate.